Hello beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. Yeah, I decided to wear my bangs down today, but I still got the pigtails. I'm actually about to go to the gym, that's why I'm dressed like this. Oh, look at that, this shirt. Another shirt that falls down, what's new? Anyway, so I posted a couple of videos over the summer, about internship, because I know that like this is my slipper, by the way, I'm just moving it. I know that like some internships, they'll start, in the summer. I think mine, I forget if it started in like June, but like I had the option to like start in the summer or start in September, and I chose to start in September because I just needed like a mental break from school. But that's why I posted some internship videos and feedback in the summer. But it's fall now, or getting there at least, and it is practicum time for some of you. Yay! You guys, okay. So, like, I don't know why they don't force practicum on you sooner. And what I mean by, like, force, like, I don't know why you don't observe sooner. I always compare music therapy to medical school because technically it's the same structure and a lot of people don't realize that. But here we go. So, in med school, to get in, they look to see how much client contact you've had. And I'm not saying that music therapy should do that whatsoever, because how are you supposed to like interact with clients when you're 16 years old and not legally an adult yet? But the point that I'm trying to say is that I totally think that we, as music therapists, should at least get a feel or get to see what it's like to be with clients prior to the end of sophomore year, beginning of junior year. I mean, that's when like practicums start for most schools, I think. In undergrad, like junior year-ish. And I feel like that's so late. Teaching, they have the same exact issue. Like, why am I doing student teaching like towards the end of my schooling? Like, I should be in the classroom, or at least observing. I'm not saying like teach or do music therapy, because you don't have the confidence nor the skills for that. Nobody's asking that of you. But you should at least like, see what a nursing home actually looks like, see what it looks like to be a music therapist in a preschool. At least like sooner, Sometimes I wonder if it's a business decision to hold off on these clinical experiences, because like maybe they want you to pay a significant amount of money and they don't want you to like quit the program. I don't know. Part of me wonders if that's maybe the reason why. But the point is, I think that clinicals should begin sooner, and I think it should be treated just like med school. Like in med school, you have to have so many contact hours with patients, and a lot of people don't get that in undergrad, and then they go off and they do a postdoc, so then that way they can get the experience. Or they work, they work as a certified nursing assistant, they work as a scribe, they work as an EMT, and I don't really think that that's appropriate for music therapy. But what I do think is appropriate is to do volunteering in a nursing home. Now, it's very difficult to become a volunteer in a nursing home, because believe me, I've tried. But the school should be able to help you out with something like that. I mean, like my school, we had a facility on campus, and that's kind of where the story is going. We had a facility on campus, and that it was a nursing home facility. And I know some other colleges have like, they'll have preschools on campus, or they'll have like schools like, maybe a couple of programs here and there on campus. So like there's resources, and I don't really understand why they're not being used. Like I don't know. Again, I think it's a business decision. I don't really think it's like an educational decision why they're not being used. I think it's because of business. But the point is, I think that clinical should begin earlier than junior year, and I really do think that you should get thrown in it, because what better way to learn than to just get thrown in it, because that's what's going to happen in practicum. So here is my practicum experience. So in practicum, so like the way mine was structured is that I had didactic practicum, medical practicum, psychiatric practicum. And a lot of people don't use the term didactic. Again, another reason why I compare music therapy to medicine. Didactic is a term I've seen on a lot of like PA, physician's assistant blogs. And didactic in terms of practicum, like in music therapy, well, we were all working with children, and we were working based on a didactic approach. So like it was more teaching, it was more hands-on, it was experimental at times, and I thought it was very abstract and very, what's the right word? I guess weird and crazy and go with the flow. But the more experience I got, the less it became more go with. Like, I think my internship was the most experimental out of all of them. But you know, my didactic practicum was my first practicum, so I really didn't know, right? Then medical was next, and again, that's like, it's a medical approach. So I worked in a nursing home. And then my last one was psychiatric. I think that was my favorite. The psychiatric I was waiting for, because once I was in didactic, learned I didn't want to work with kids. I was like, well, I definitely want to do psychiatric next. And then medical was last. And then here I am. Medical's like the best. Actually, no, acquired brain injury is literally my favorite population. But then medical, any medical approach, except for Alzheimer's dementia, is my favorite. That's the one thing I don't like. Just because I don't have patience. Maybe, I sometimes wonder if, like, when I'm older and I have kids, maybe I'll like working with Alzheimer's dementia clients. Like, maybe I'll like working in that setting because my life at home will be so crazy. But as of right now, I don't really like it. But the point being, those are my 3 practicums, right? So my first practicum was didactic, and I did have to drive into the city. And at this point in my life, I didn't really drive into the city. I always took public transportation, and that's something like my mother taught me. She always said to take public transportation into the city because parking is a hassle. Now, when it came to my practicum, parking wasn't necessarily a hassle at that site because they had a small lot for staff only. So it worked out for me, but any other site, sometimes practicum parking can be a hassle, especially like if it is in the city. Now I did want to take the train. I did think about it, and I did look it over, but taking the train to that practicum at that time, it would have been such hassle. It would have taken me 2 hours to get there and 2 hours back. And I mean, it ended up taking an hour and a half anyway because of traffic. And that's another thing that they don't tell you. You need to drive all over the place, and you need to have a car. I don't understand why. Where do they think we're going to get the money from? Where am I supposed to get gas money and toll money and car money, from? But whatever, that's the way it is. So, yeah, so that was my didactic practicum. My medical practicum was very close to school. It wasn't necessarily close to my place. It was closer to my significant others at the time, and I'll get to that story in a little bit. And then my last practicum, my psychiatric practicum, which was my favorite, this was so messed up. This practicum was literally 20 minutes from my house, my home address, and it was an hour and 45 minutes from my school. I don't know how that made sense. And the thing is that my mom was oh, why don't you sleep over here, and then you don't have such a long commute. But then it was well, I have to go to practicum like midweek, you know? So it was like, okay, I have class Tuesday night, I have class Wednesday morning, and then I go to practicum like Wednesday afternoon right after class, and then I have class like Wednesday night. So it was like so stupid, like, and that also happens too, is it's like stupid, like the way it's arranged. But whatever, it's all, I mean, if you think about it, you only have to deal with the frustration, because there's about 14 weeks in the semester, right? So you could get away with like 10 weeks of practicum, if at least that's what I did with this ridiculous site. Even though it was my favorite site, I tended to ask for hours in other places, and I tried to stay late on certain days so I didn't have to go in other days. Because I'm sorry, I'm not wasting my time. It's not my fault that it wasn't arranged or organized in the way I wanted it to be. And that's one thing that I'm going to talk about after my little anecdote story. So I'm going to describe my medical practicum, and like I mentioned, it wasn't necessarily close to my place or the apartment I was staying in, but it was really close to my significant other's place. And the main reason why is because his place was like right off the highway, so it was, or right off a highway, and it was very easy. You were going against traffic when you got on by his apartment. So I used to go like sleep over his house Sunday night, and then I'd go to practicum on Monday. And I had to be there like I had to be there at 8:30, but you know, when you're 19, 8:30 is super early. Geez, I still think 8:30 is super early in the morning. So anyway, so then like I would get on the highway there, and then I would drive, and it would take like 10-15 minutes. Whereas like if I left from my place, it took a good half hour. Anyway, so Monday, like, or I should say Sunday night. Some people call them the Sunday scaries. I call them the Sunday blues. Or sometimes I say I get depressed on Sunday. And it's just because like there's so much going on, and at least like definitely in high school. Oh, my mother is calling me. I have to call her back. That scared me. Gee, man, oh man. Okay. So then, what was I talking about? Oh, some people call them the Sunday scaries. Some people call them, or at least I say that Sunday blues. I get depressed. But anyway, I don't know if she's gonna call again, but anyway, so then, I don't know, I would get really, really anxious and really, really nervous. Yeah, and so I didn't sleep well on Sunday night, and then I was like even more nervous because like I had to be there. First of all, I had to go to practicum, and I was nervous and anxious about practicum in and of itself, and then like I was nervous about getting there on time because like I said, I'm not a morning person. So yeah, so anyway, so I opted, I don't know if this was necessarily the best decision because like I did have to bring my guitar, and sometimes I had to bring instruments, but I ended up sleeping over my significant other's place, and I went to practicum Monday morning, and I never got like the best night's sleep, like, but the thing is, and that's why I say like maybe it wasn't the best decision, but I did it because first of all, it was closer, and I felt a little more at ease because I knew like it was only going to take 15 minutes max, whereas like if I left from my place, it was definitely going to be like a half hour, maybe 45 minutes. So I felt a little bit more at ease, but like it wasn't really great because you don't sleep well. I don't really care what people say. Some people are like, oh, I sleep better with my significant other. Well, no. Nobody sleeps well with somebody else, like that's a proven fact, and nobody sleeps well not in their own bed. That's another proven fact. But so like I said, it wasn't the best night's sleep, and then I did have everything, and then I did have a long day on Mondays. Yeah. But going into practicum, especially like in the nursing home, because like I'm not a patient person, and I was specifically working on the dementia unit. And at that practicum, I really didn't like it because my supervisor, she was great, she really was, but I don't really think I was mature enough to understand the comments. Like, you know, I was like 15. I was 19, 20. Yeah, I wasn't even 21 yet. And like, she was telling me things that like they were kind of going over my head. And I was very nervous to talk to her because I never really understood what she was saying. And then I didn't know how to ask or say, I don't get it. Can you explain it a different way? Like, it was just very difficult. And that's what I'm going to share with you guys. So everybody matures mentally in a different, like, everybody matures mentally at different paces. I know like 25 is the golden year where like finally things start to click, but I don't even know if things start to click when you're 25. I think it really just depends on who you are and, you know, what you're up to and all that kind of stuff. So like when I was 19, 20, I don't think I was mature enough for certain practicums. And the medical practicum is a perfect example where it's like, all I knew is that I had to play soft, I had to play slow. That's all like that was going through my head. And whereas my supervisor, she was like, oh, you know, you need to channel your energy. Oh, you need to play a little bit like this, a little bit like that, and kind of change the style of music, match the style to the recording. Like, and she was giving me all this like feedback, and it was going in one ear and out the other because my brain wasn't really ready to think abstractly at that point in my life. Now the didactic practicum, on the other hand, because that one I had first, that was really easy because like, you know, you're singing happy birthday and twinkle twinkle little star, and you really can't mess that up. But then when I did, you know, don't sit under the apple tree with anyone else but me, you know, in my medical practicum, there's so many different versions of that song. So a lot of times I would just click the first video and learn it that way and not realize that like, oh, maybe I should copy like the 1930s version and not the 1970s version, because clearly this client isn't going to know the 1970s version, you know, and like that wasn't going through my mind at that point. And I think that's fine. I don't really think that stuff is going through a 19, 20-year-old's mind, especially when you don't have clinical training prior. So there you go. Then when it came time for my psychiatric practicum, that was again another one that like I was very anxious about because it was a far drive. Both didactic and psychiatrics were far drives for me. So it made me like, not only was I anxious about getting to the practicum, but I was anxious about getting there on time because it was a farther drive, and you know, you have to be there at like 8, 9, just like the rest of the world, so you do get stuck in traffic. Yeah, but by the time I started my psychiatric practicum, at that point I was 20 to 21, like turning 21, you know, and at that point I think I don't think I needed like a 10-week or 14-week practicum. I think what I really needed was like 2 months and then internship, because I think by that point things started to click and I felt more confident in my skills, and I didn't necessarily need to go, or at least I personally felt like I didn't need to go for 4 hours once a week. I felt like I needed to do more time. And I know like you can do more time in practicum, but like it doesn't really, it's kind of a waste because it doesn't carry over into internship. Like, so, you know, you still have to do the 1,000 hours of internship regardless of whether you do 200 hours of practicum or 500 hours of practicum, you know, so that's why I didn't opt to do more. I think I physically, mentally was ready to just jump into internship. And when you do start internship, you know, you do have to go through a training period. So you don't just like jump in singing songs also. But I think part of that training period could have happened during my third semester of practicum. Now, everybody is a little bit different. Some people do opt like to do 4 or 5 semesters of practicum. I think for me, 2.5 would have been fine. That would have been plenty. Personally, I felt like there was a significant difference of me beginning medical practicum, not really understanding my supervisor's comments, to middle of psychiatric practicum, everything started to click. And it's gonna happen. Like, things will start to click regardless of whether it takes 1 semester or 10 semesters. It will start to click because you'll just start to get used to it. And then especially like an internship, I think internship was a little bit easier just because you're working with the same population, you're going to the same site. There's not as much like change, there aren't as many variables, so the situation is more in your favor. But yeah, practicum's a disaster. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I mean, it's good. The way it's structured is good. But I don't really think the 3 semesters, I don't think the 200 hours of practicum, or however your school breaks it down, 200 hours of practicum, 1,000 hours of internship, I think that's very, very generalized, but it's not ideal for everybody. And you'll start to see what's good for you as you continue on. I think the most, like, I talked about the drive and I talked about the distance and the time and getting there on time. But I think deep down inside, like, what causes the most practicum anxiety is that you really don't know what you're doing. And like, you know, your professors, your like older music therapy friends, me on this channel, your supervisor, we could tell you till you're blue in the face like what to do and how to handle yourself, but it's not gonna click until you do it for a little while. And I think that tends to happen, and that's, I think, the bulk of the anxiety is like, you know, you want to make a really good impression. This could be a potential, you know, they do become, your practicum supervisors do become professional references. This could be, you know, you could make a really good impression and get a job from one of these practicums. And, you know, you're thinking about that kind of stuff. And most music therapists are type A and perfectionists. Musicians are perfectionists. So you want to be perfect. But it's hard to be perfect when you don't have a stable groundwork. So the best advice I could give you, going in there, like, you know, you are going in cold turkey, you're going in there blind. The best advice I could give you is to just not be so hard on yourself. Like, write down the comments that your supervisor provides to you. Don't just listen, like, write them down and then read them over. That's really good because they're going to start, like, your practicum, like I said, you know, it's going to be in one ear and out the other, especially like medical, psychiatric, especially like your second, third semester of practicum. The comments are going to be going in one ear and out the other because your supervisors most likely have their masters. Like, not only have they been doing it for a while, but they also have their masters. So they kind of have the abstract clinical thinking part down. And I'm sorry, but no 19-year-old potential music therapist is gonna have that mentally, no matter how smart you are. So that's why it's good to write it down so you could read it over. And then if you have a question on something they said, you know, you can always point to the journal and be like, you said this last week and I don't know what that means. Can you show me? Asking them to show you is usually best because they're not, I don't know, music therapists aren't very good at describing things. Maybe that's why most of us aren't teachers. We're not music educators. We're music therapists because we're not good at explaining things. Maybe that's why. So always ask them to show you instead of tell you or explain it to you, because most of the time they're not very good at, like, they know what they want, so they can show you better than explaining it. Yeah, so that's number one, feedback. Just go in, just like, you know, let it go. You know, you're not going to be perfect. and they're gonna comment and give you feedback. Like, you could be amazing and they're still gonna comment and give you feedback and tell you to work on things. So knowing that it's gonna happen eventually, just like go in there and do whatever. And then, you know, if you can, I would suggest like volunteering. I would suggest shadowing. Yeah, I would suggest like being in a facility, trying your best to be in a facility. You don't have to do a school and a hospital and rehab. Just like choose one. Usually a nursing home is the easiest, you know, and then just like volunteer around Thanksgiving or Christmas time. Don't even say that you're a musician though, because like that sometimes causes problems, because then they think you're looking for a job. And I mean, money is great, but like I would just suggest going into like a nursing home and like saying, oh, you know, I'm a student, I'm HIPAA certified. Can I volunteer in the kitchen, you know? Or even if you went like the food pantry, or at least the food pantry by me, they serve a lot of underprivileged and developmentally disabled older adults that live in sheltered homes. So like when I go to the food pantry to volunteer, like, yeah, you're doing like cafeteria style and it's not necessarily music therapy, but at least you can like see like how do like adults with developmental disabilities act? Like, what do they look like, you know? And then same thing with the nursing home, like, what do they look like, you know? And if you're a volunteer, they're probably going to put you in like a better unit, you know? But at least still you can see, okay, what it looks like in here. Like, is it a nice nursing home? Is it a crummy nursing home? Like, you know, you can kind of get a feel. Shadowing in schools is, I think, the hardest place to shadow in, because like they have a lot of rules. I can talk about shadowing in another video in more detail, but you know, I think it would be best going in there, you know, just letting it go, not thinking too much, and just knowing that you're not going to do well, and just like, okay, well, whatever, I'll just throw up all over the floor, because you're not going to tell me that I got an A regardless of whether I'm wonderful or not. So I just might as well. And I'm not saying like don't try your best, but like don't be so uptight. Just go in there and be like, whatever happens, happens. They're going to give me corrections anyway. That's their job. And then to help yourself, shadowing, volunteering at a facility with patients that are similar to your ideal population. But those are like two ways to kind of relieve the practicum anxiety. As the semester continues, I'll definitely talk more about practicum and my own practicum experience. I didn't really like practicums that much. Like I said, there's too many variables changing, and that's something to keep in mind. There are a lot of variables changing, and you're only there for like 12 weeks, if that. So, again, just take a chill pill, relax. Let your supervisor do most of the work. Let them be in charge of the feedback. Let them tell you everything, you know. Don't go in there expecting something or expecting to do really well. Just go in and let them do all the work, because, you know, they are getting the big bucks. And that's what I have to say. I'll go into more detail about shadowing and volunteering /volunteering and practicums and everything else in between. Okay, have a good day, everyone. Bye.